I do work with a ministry called Proverbs 31, and I have to tell you a little story about my adventure of helping to start this ministry called Proverbs 31. You see, when I was a little girl, one of my earliest memories was being about 8 years old. We were very poor growing up, but every Easter, my mom would buy us a new dress, me and my sister. I remember one night I went into my closet and I was looking at this beautiful dress hanging there. I decided to put it on, go into the bathroom and fix my hair the very best that a little 8-year-old girl could fix her hair. And then I remember thinking, as I stood in that bathroom mirror, maybe tonight's the night. Maybe tonight's the night that my daddy will finally say, I love you. And so I walked out into my den, and there was my daddy sitting in a recliner chair with a beer in one hand and a TV remote in the other hand. And as I went and I stood beside him, I tried to look as graceful and beautiful as I possibly could, and he never even noticed me. So I did what any little girl would do with a pretty dress on. I started to twirl around and around and around and around, and as my dress flowed out, my heart cried out, Daddy, am I beautiful? Daddy, am I significant? Daddy, do you love me? My daddy never could give me those words of affirmation. As a matter of fact, whenever he would speak to me, it would often be because I'd done something to get in trouble. And he would say things to me like, you know, Lysa, I never wanted children, especially not a girl. So I took all of that hurt and all of that pain and all of that shame, and I stuffed it down in my heart. And it caused within me sort of this hollowed out feeling. And I wrongly discerned in my little 8-year-old brain that I must be a throwaway person. And because I had this hollowed out feeling, it set me on this pattern in my life of holding out this cup, this little heart-shaped cup to everyone. I did it my whole life. Will you love me? Will you make me feel significant? Will you say that I'm beautiful? Will you fill my cup up? Tomorrow I'll share the rest of my story of how I eventually came to know Jesus. But for tonight, I want to skip ahead to that place where I was a young bride, thinking my whole life that if I just met the right man who would say the right things, that he would fill me up, he would right all of my wrongs, he would make me feel loved and beautiful and significant, that I would hold out my cup, and finally, this man that I would marry, my husband, would do for me what no one else had ever done before. But I quickly discovered as I held my cup up to him time and time and time again, even a great husband makes a very poor God. He was never designed to fill me up completely, to make me feel ultimately beautiful, or to satisfy those deep longings and make me feel significant. He was never designed to completely fill me. And yet there I was, in the midst of this marriage that was falling apart. I wish I had $1 for every time I would say to my husband, if you would just love me the way I needed to be loved, then we would have a great marriage. But because you don't love me the way I need to be loved, well, then all bets are off. It was a very lonely time. It was a very broken time. It was a very devastating time. You see, I always thought the secret to happiness was growing up, getting a good education, getting married, having a few kids, and having the little home with the white picket fence out front and a minivan parked in the driveway with the appropriate seasonal foliage planted there. And that was the recipe for happiness. So when my husband couldn't fill me up, I said, I know what's wrong. We need to have some babies. And so then we had baby girl number 1, and she came out in the delivery room seriously barking orders and smoking a cigar. And she was bent on bossing somebody, and that somebody was usually me. And then 6 months later, I decided to go to the doctor and tell the doctor that I was completely overwhelmed with the blessing of one child. and that I didn't want any more children. I felt very certain we were only supposed to have one child. And he said, great, well, we can take some permanent measures, but we have to give you a pregnancy test first. And I said, well, I can assure you that I'm not pregnant. And he said, well, we have to do this as a precaution. He gave me a test. He said, wow, actually, you are pregnant. And I said, no, I'm not. He said, yes, you are. And I said, I am getting a second opinion. So I went to the Walmart and bought up all kinds of pregnancy tests, and I didn't like the first one or the second one or the third one, but eventually I figured out I was pregnant again. It was about this time that my friend came to me, and she said, Lysa, I'm going to start this ministry called Proverbs 31, and I think that you should join in and help me with this ministry. I think it'll be great. We're going to encourage wives and moms and really help raise the next generation and teach women how to be godly women. And I need some marketing help. I know you're good at marketing, so I'll be the upfront person. You be the marketing person, and I think this will just be great. Well, my thought was, if only she knew all the yuck that was tucked inside, she would never, ever ask a woman like me to join up with a ministry. But I thought, well, maybe if I hang out with her, then maybe some of her goodness will rub off on me. Maybe I can learn how to love my husband and love my children and be a godly woman. So I told her yes, that I would help her start this ministry called Proverbs 31. It's definitely a testimony that God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies those that he calls. I don't think that he was looking for a perfect girl. I think he was just looking for someone who would say yes. And then I was with the ministry for about 3 months when it occurred to me maybe I should actually read Proverbs chapter 31, because I'd never done that. Yeah, and I had a little discussion with God when I finally did read Proverbs chapter 31, because I said, God, I have no idea what you would want to do with a girl like me. And I felt like God saying back just in the depths of my heart, just in this pressing in, this very quiet whisper, all I need is someone to be with me. Don't get so consumed with what you're supposed to do. Just be. And slowly, my life started taking one step after another step after another step of learning how to pull back that heart-shaped cup that I'd been holding out to everyone in my life, everyone around me, every opportunity, looking to have my heart filled. Slowly, I learned to pull that heart-shaped cup back and put it back in my soul and realize I didn't have to be the broken child of a broken parent the rest of my life. I could be more. I could be a child of God. Now, what if I could tell you tonight that without a doubt, no matter who you are, no matter what you've been through, no matter where you've been, no matter who you've been with, no matter what you've done, no matter what your life circumstances are right now, no matter what your home looked like when you left or what it will look like when you return back tonight, what if I could tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt what God's will is for you? Would you be interested? I think most women are at a place where they would be. Because most of us are just like I was for so many years. Most of us want to know what we can do so we can take the heart-shaped cup inside our emptiness, inside our doubts, inside our significance, inside our hurts, and we can hold up this heart-shaped cup and say, maybe if I do this, then I will feel loved. Maybe if I do this, then I will feel significant. Maybe if I do this, then I will feel important. But what if God's will is not so much tied to what we do, but rather tied to how God wants us to be? What if we could learn to be with God? What if we could learn to be more than just good Bible study girls who run off to Bible study and study and study and study and study, and yet come home and spill bleach on our favorite shirt and freak out and think to ourselves, why doesn't Jesus work for me? Why do I feel so empty when just 5 minutes ago at Bible study I felt so spiritually filled up? What if it's not what we're supposed to do, but rather that God wants us to be and tie his will to how he wants us to be? And once we know how we are supposed to be, we will be more. We will be filled up. We will know it's nothing that we do that will ever make us feel loved, significant, important, beautiful, but it's rather being more with God. And then once we decide we're going to be, the doing will unfold from there.